Hi, Dennis.
Everybody's a suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
What has got Nards?
Paranormal Activity 3 is a 2011 horror movie directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, and it stars Christopher Nicholas Smith, Lauren Bittner and Dustin Ingram. Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to my Paranormal Activity movie reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Paranormal Activity 3. In 1988, young sisters Katie and Kristi befriend an invisible entity who resides in their home. Now I think this is a first in horror movie history at this point in time that I have saw, and if I'm wrong you can correct me, but this is the first time we've had a first back-to-back prequel. We had the first movie, then the second movie was set before that, and now we've got the third movie in the franchise that's again set before the first two movies. This time it's set in 1988. But just like true Paranormal Activity fashion, we do get to see semi-modern day, even though it's still in the past, and we get to see an adult Kristi and an adult Katie. I think that's just in there to refresh us who these characters are, and that the fact that they two are sisters and we're going back in time to talk about them or to see them. When it goes back to 1988, we're introduced to Dennis, who is the stepdad of Kristi and Katie. They don't really mention the actual real dad. And we've also got Julie as well, who is the mother of Kristi and Katie. And straight away, I think Dennis and Julie have that realistic chemistry, just like in the first two movies. The realism with all these characters is fantastic. Even with young Katie and young Kristi, they've got that genuine realistic charm to them. And I think my favourite character in this movie was Dennis. He was totally likeable, for a stepdad at least, and you can just get on board with everything that he's doing. He was very realistic, and back in 1988 they don't have much technology, so they have to think of a way to bring in that technology, and what better way to do that than to make Dennis a wedding videographer, so he has access to camera equipment, and there you go, it's a quick answer. I love this scene here. I don't know if everyone picked up on this, but I'll tell you anyway. This is the scene where Katie gets a photograph taken by Dennis, and that is the photograph that was used in the first two movies. Even though we're going back in time and we're going backwards in terms of technology, because they have to do that for 1988, I think the camera angles and the techniques that they used in this one is a major improvement from the first two movies. You obviously know what I'm talking about. You've got the scene where you've got Dennis that straps one of the video cameras to a moving fan, which is great. Obviously they don't have wide angle lenses back in 1988, or good ones at least, or affordable ones, so he sticks his camera on this makeshift tripod that moves basically, and every time that camera moves, pans from one side to the other, the audience in the cinema gasps because they don't know what they're going to see when that camera pans back round again. Found footage movies are creepy enough, but when you add in kids to these found footage movies, it just makes it that little bit creepier. And the fact that young Kristi and young Katie are two of the main characters in it makes it even creepier because they're always on screen. Now here's where it gets interesting, and I think it gets interesting for the better. I did mention that Paranormal Activity 2 was almost like a carbon copy of the first film, and if they continue on doing what they do in the franchise, it will get very boring very fast. Some people don't like change, some people do. I tend to not like change. I tend to hate it when they change a franchise around midway through. Like for example, the original Halloween franchise changed Michael into this Thorn cult, Curse of Michael Myers problem, and that was really bad. But in this, they change it. They don't just make it this scary haunted house, they give us more of a backstory yet again, because it is the beginning, and we find out that it's not just this random ghost or demon that's haunting these two girls. It started way before that, way before their mother, right back possibly to before their grandmother, and they get to the grandmother's house in this film, and that's when things take a turn for the worst. We find out that the grandmother is part of this covent of witches, and this is the reason for this curse and the demon that's coming after all the girls in the family and killing all the men in the family as well. And I just think it opens up a massive avenue for the franchise, hopefully for the better when the future movies come out, but I just think it's better to change it up now rather than keep it stale. And the good thing is this is a prequel, so whatever they change up in this prequel, they can also explain things that or reasons that happen in the first two movies as well. I think it was pretty smart. We can't talk about Paranormal Activity 3 without talking about that ending. I think the ending was basically epic. Those last 10 minutes when we find out the grandmother is part of this, we find out that she's got a coven of witches with her in this house. No one's safe. You know, when we see that, we're like, oh my goodness. When we see those witches, what? And then when we see Julie at the top of the stairs hanging and then get thrown towards Dennis, I'm like, Jesus. And then when we see Dennis get killed the way he did, I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible. The stakes were high at the end of this film, and you probably think, well, that is something that you'll never forget. But the good thing is, these kids in the film were just kids. And they do mention in the first two movies that they don't really remember much, and it's because they were just kids. So when you watch the end of Paranormal Activity 3, you're like, okay, I can believe that kids are just kids and they forget. And even if kids don't forget, I'm sure you can put a witch's spell on them to forget it all. And then, but you're thinking, what about the tapes? You know, the tapes can be watched by anyone, by the police, because they'll obviously be looking for Dennis and Julie. No, the tapes were just erased, and that's it. That's an easy explanation. Just erase the tapes, burn the tapes, whatever you want, do what you want with the tapes. There's no evidence. I'm sure the witches got rid of the bodies, and that's it. The kids don't remember a thing. I think that was great. It's an easy ending that some people will think, well, that's just too easy and they don't explain too much, but I like that. I like the fact that they don't over explain everything, but we do get a deeper explanation as to the reasons why things happened in the first and the second Paranormal Activity. Now granted, this movie won't be for everyone, even in the Paranormal Activity universe, because some people just like to watch these Paranormal Activity movies for the ghosts and the things that are moving around, and that's fine. But I can see why some people might not like Paranormal Activity 3. I think I really like it because it goes bold and it changes things up. So what are your thoughts on Paranormal Activity 3, guys? Were you a fan of the change up, or did you prefer the more grounded approach that they got with the first two movies? As always, leave your comments down below and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.